anyway, let's get on with it. So, welcome to another episode of Bant&Ash. It's been a while, but I watched a video last night, and I was texting you, just saying like, when was it? Like, well, it was sometimes this hour, which is 3:30 a.m. I was like, let's do an episode. So it is with our good friend, what's his name, Gary Stevenson, right?
Yes. The man himself,
So
the
yeah,
legend.
the legend,
Self-reported
the man of people, the best trader in the world who just gave it all away just to be man of people.
Just to go onto YouTube, you know. There's a few quotes from our best friend Gary.
Yeah.
I was making millions betting that people were getting poorer. I didn't predict the future. I just understood the system. The rich were saving, the poor were broke, demand was dying. That means I could make money. People think traders are adrenaline junkies. In reality, the best traders are the calmest people in the room. And every tick on my screen is a reflection on how rich I'm getting.
Okay, so now it's us. Let's play.
Because the necessary on wealth are not being... Gary Stevenson made millions as a trader in the city, a maths whiz from a poor background, who now says the middle class are about to be effectively shafted because the necessary taxes on wealth are not being implemented. Gary Stevenson is live on LBC to take your calls. Very good to see you. Thanks for coming in again.
Good to see you again, Tom.
It's
Can I just say something? The working TV, you mostly don't check like you know, when they send their PR sheet.
Yeah, they're biased.
You don't actually fact check. Yeah, you don't actually fact check it. And he was reading it as well, so he is actually raising that he was a math whiz.
Gary's like, I was a maths whiz with a huge bollocks.
Anyway, so yeah, that was...
All right.
I know that a lot of my callers and listeners want to get into. For the three people who haven't heard of you before, what's your big pitch? What's your the idea that is central to your worldview?
That inequality matters, in particular inequality of wealth. That inequality of wealth has been increasing very, very quickly. That means wealth has been transferred from the government to the very rich, from the working class to the very rich, from the middle class to the very rich. That accelerated enormously during COVID. And that is the cause for the cost of living crisis. And if you don't do anything about it, then it will accelerate, because that's what interest does. It's compounding, it's exponential. I'm not just saying that, I'm betting on it. I've been betting on it for a long time.
I was waiting, like, I watched this once or twice. I was waiting when he goes to the self-promotion bit. Like, we should count how many minutes it takes till it goes on about like how brilliant he is.
But do you understand how cognitively dissonant you must be to, on one hand, be saying it's bad, and then on the other hand, to be saying I'm making millions from it? Do you understand, like, what's going on in your brain? And the people who are like watching you and lauding you up and lionizing you don't realize that you're saying this is what's happening, and I'm making money on it. By virtue of that, by definition of that, you are part of the problem. Literally, by definition of that, you are part of the problem.
Yeah. I don't know, but I don't think he's making millions of it. I just find it funny, as he said as well, the hypocrisy of it.
I've come through the best economics universities in the country, in the world. I was Citibank's most profitable trader in the world by betting on the collapse of living standards. Now I'm out here on you.
What did he bet on?
He bet on his audience getting poor. And now they're like, yeah, subscribe. Let me send them a donation. Cash out.
What sort of bet is that in where he worked? Like, he bet
on like
lapse of living standards.
Yeah, so if what he's doing, he's seeing the flows on his desk, billions of dollars come through, lots of loan agreements come through, lots of FRAs come through, and from that you can kind of interpret what the economy is doing. If people are borrowing money at lower rates, or if the rate of interest on money being borrowed is lower, you can interpolate or infer from that the economy is on like a downward trajectory. Therefore, if he's saying, oh, I'm seeing what's going on in the economy and I'm betting against it, I'm betting a proxy that the living standards are going to be diminishing, he's basically seeing like the price of money is going up or down, therefore something bad's happening in the economy, therefore the poorest people are going to be hit the most. And I'm going to make money on it because I'm Gary Stevens and I'm bloody brilliant.
Yeah, but Stevenson, but I don't understand. You said if a lot of loans come with low interest rate.
So if people are like exchanging money at lower rates, or if the rate
A lower
agreements,
rate,
or
exchanging money on lower rate. I thought a low interest rates loans are coming. Like that's a bad thing. If the
well, I mean,
rates on loans are low.
yeah,
Like
it's not a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing, but what it foresees and what it portends is that in the future, money is going to be cheaper, which means central banks are probably going to have lowered rates, and they probably are lowering rates in response to a worsening economic crisis that affects the poor disproportionately more. So if the future value of money is lower, the amount that you can borrow money at is lower, that means the central banks have responded to weakness in the underlying economy. That's the only reason why interest rates would be lower.
Okay. But okay. And is this like I don't imagine this is like 101 economy. It's not like a brilliant take that like you'll be the only one seeing it.
No. I mean, like Gary Stevenson saying, "Oh yeah, like I read the tea leaves and I was the only one who saw it. Everyone else was just, I don't know, like."
That's my issue as well. Like he qualified being the best trader by saying like I bet on the living standards dropping, and as you're saying, it wasn't that hard to tell like after the collapse of economy or after.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
The only difference between Gary and like a normal trader out here is that Gary has the heft and the weight of an institutional investment bank. Like he has the order book in the billions. The only difference is that he has the capital to make a big bet. He's not the only one seeing what's going on. Like the average man down the street can see that, hey, I'm getting poorer. If I can leverage my bets and bet against the economy, I will do it as well. But he has the desk, he has the information flow, he has the information edge, and most importantly, he has the bank's money. Because it's not hard to make money. It's not like he's predicting something esoteric that no one else can see. It's that he had the ability to bet on it.
Yeah, that's my issue. Like, it makes himself to be the oracle because he sowed this, and that's how he qualified it. But anyway, let's carry on.
YouTube in my book here on your show because I don't want it to happen. I come from working class background, and I don't want ordinary families to pay the price just so the rich can get richer and richer.
03456060973 is the number. You can watch us on the LBC app as well, which is free to download from wherever you get it. Julie's our first caller in Plymouth. Julie, you're through to Gary Stevenson. Your question.
Hello, Gary. I hope you're keeping well.
Do my best, Julie.
Good.
Such a humble lad.
Really admire your sentiment on economics. Please, could you tell me more about how you see the wealth tax working?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question, right? So me and the people I work with, like Patriot Millionaires, we campaign for 2% wealth tax above 10 million. It's not on income, it's on the wealth that you own. So all of your assets minus your debt, 2% a year. I think sometimes people time it a little bit too strictly to that, like it has to be this specific form of wealth tax. The most important thing is that whatever tax you bring in is effectively targeted at really, really the richest. We're not talking about bankers, doctors, lawyers, heaven forbid, LBC presenters. We're talking about phenomenally wealthy people with wealth of 100 million, 1 billion pounds. You need to focus on these people. We talk about a wealth tax, a tax on wealth. There's other ways of doing it. We could talk about taxing very, very large fortunes at the point of inheritance. But really, you need to tax the richest people in society, the asset holders, because if you don't tax them, their wealth will grow at a phenomenal rate and they will outcompete the middle class. And what that means is your kids can't have houses. So realistically, I'm not religious about exactly one or another form of wealth tax. I'm trying to make the case that we need some form of wealth tax. And what I want is for the public to get behind.
So
I agree with that. Before you comment, I agree with what he's saying. That is fundamentally true.
I was asking your opinion.
Like, okay. Ashkan, I'm so used to you suffocating my opinion that I have to jump up with. No, I'm joking. So, in terms of the wealth tax and what he's talking about there, I mean, I'm pretty sure most people would agree with a wealth tax. The problem is actually nailing down where the wealth is. The problem is actually getting that money from the wealthy, because the wealthy have the means, they have the capabilities, they have the know-how, they have the knowledge to move that money around in terms of like transactionality and making more than one transaction seem like they're actually moving money around so that it's untaxable. But what he's fundamentally saying about the inequality between the wealthy and the poor happening. We all know that's true. But another interesting point he made was that it's just going to get worse. And if the rich are getting worse, what are the rich doing? If you're a person making like £1 million a week in interest or £1 million a year in interest, what are you doing with that surplus capital? You're buying assets, normally in the form of like property, right, or equities. That increases and exacerbates the divide between the rich and the poor. So I completely agree with him, because it's not just about the rich getting richer, it's about the rich owning all of the assets. And a wealth tax, although it addresses that somewhat, it won't solve it completely at all. Like the wealth tax, let's say he's saying 2% wealth tax on huge fortunes. That is not going to stop the wealthy still accruing all of the assets, but it might help to like put money back into public services. What it doesn't help the wealthy getting even wealthier, and it doesn't actually stop the poor from getting any poorer. It might like buttress government deficits. It might help the government accrue more in the way of tax receipts, which can then hopefully go into like productive parts of the economy, or to go down to paying our debt, or to like make more hospitals. But it's not going to stop that wealth inequality. I mean, it sounds good on the surface. Yeah, tax the rich, eat the rich. It's a popular thing to say, and maybe that's why he's saying it. But I do fundamentally agree that a wealth tax needs to occur. But the way he's selling it as a fix-all is not, it's not sincere, in my opinion.
Okay, so if I got, let's say, I don't know, for the sake of argument, I think there is a whole conversation about how you're going to actually value what people have, their assets, how much resource you have to spend to actually go and say, like, you got this piece of art, you got this house, you got this blah blah, and you have to probably do some self-assessment as well. But you have to, like, most people not going to claim it. I don't think it'd be a volunteer thing that they will say, like, I actually hit that first short of being taxed on it. So let's say you got these assets. And yeah, it goes over whatever his limit is, and you have to be taxed. What stops me from selling everything and going and do it in another country? What stops me from doing it in Dubai? And like, do I need to have assets in the UK? I can have it in the US. Like, if it's not global, I don't think in this day and age it would actually make any difference whatsoever, rather than just hurting the economy of the UK.
100%. I mean, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. We've never lived in such a period of time where money is so hot. And by that, I mean money can move borderlessly. It can move free of any kind of friction, and it can move at like the drop of a hat, right? So people can liquidate their assets very quickly. They can hypothecate their assets. They can collateralize their assets way quicker than ever before. But I mean, the argument for people reacting to it aggressively, I don't think it's an argument for not doing anything whatsoever. I think the wealthy need to be taxed more. But let's be honest, Gary has come out of an institution like Citibank, who are so good at not paying taxes. And when he was getting his bonuses, he probably employed lots of tax structures to limit his tax liabilities, right? And I didn't see him advocating for a wealth tax when he was the one getting all of that money, right? He probably like bought a bunch of properties or has a lot of other assets. He's trading his book actively right now. He's betting against you getting poorer. So like, I didn't see him being so high and mighty when he was actually in the hallowed halls of finance that were getting him rich back then. I think we're having connectivity.
Some of the way in which this might work. Yeah. So you talk about, I think it's a tax of 2% on wealth over 10 million.
Yeah.
Roughly how many people in the country have that kind of wealth? And so what would that tax produce?
It's not an enormous number of people. We think it would bring something sort of like 20, 30 billion, depends exactly how you do it. But this tax, it's not specifically about raising revenue. What this is about stopping the aggressive growth in the wealth of the very rich. You know, I don't know if you remember the first time you ever spoke, you and I, Tom. Do you remember when it was?
So what do you think of this answer? And like the pivots, like, oh, yeah, do you remember when it was the first time we met? Just like quickly, just first, let's go back. And first he said, like this, he did build it as this as being the most important thing that we can discuss, right? And that he's walking on to, and he asked like if it's like 10 million, like
yeah. He was like, oh, it might raise like a little 20 to 30 billion, but that's not the point.
Yeah, I thought that was the.
I thought that's the whole point. What do you mean, Gary? That's the whole point.
Yeah, money isn't the issue right now. We just want to punish the rich, like that. Is that?
I mean, again, right? It's a popular thing. Let's punish the rich. Let's eat the rich. Let's burn them down. But he's one of them. Gary is one of them. You'll never be as moneyed, the average person listening to Gary Stevenson and lauding him up, lionizing up. You'll never be as moneyed as that man is. That man's a millionaire. Just because he talks like you doesn't mean he is you.
And next it'll be Lord Sugar,
right?
Champion of people.
But no,
at least he doesn't pretend to be honest.
He said 20 to 30 billion, which interestingly is the same.
Depends how you do it. I don't know.
It depends how you do it.
I'd rather you do it in a way that it makes the most money.
But don't you
want to go lowball?
Yeah. Don't you think it's interesting that his wealth tax is the exact same ballpark figure as the Labour government deficit right now? And do you not also think it's interesting that he's predicting that Labour will lose the election if they don't fill that black hole? Because what he's doing...
but do you remember the first time you started the podcast? Like, that's why you did, like, rather than engaging with it. Like, do you remember back in the
just deflect.
You didn't want to get into like more questions about the whole like nitty-gritty of his proposal. So like,
what would that tax produce?
It's not an enormous number of people. We think it would bring something sort of like 20, 30 billion, depends exactly how you do it. But it's this tax, it's not specifically about raising revenue. What this is about stopping the aggressive growth in the wealth of the very rich. You know, I don't know if you remember the first time you ever spoke, you and I, Tom. Do you remember when it was?
I've got a fair idea.
It was in 2020, beginning of COVID. I called into your show and I told
Gary
you were going to have an enormous cost of living crisis, an enormous inflation crisis. Do you remember what the papers were saying at the time?
Oh, God, I can't remember.
An enormous inflation crisis. Do you remember what the papers were saying at the time?
Oh, God, I can't remember.
Roaring 20s, pent-up demand.
But they...
So what the way he put it, like rather than reply to that, do you remember in 2020 when I called up the show and said during the COVID we're going to have high inflation, and everyone else was saying roaring 20s. Who the hell was saying roaring? Like I read it, like Economists I think like had one article about that. Like there was a couple of articles saying like, you know, it might actually be a positive thing, but I remember most people like any normal person, nobody was working. Government was just handing in money to everyone.
Right.
Like it's like there is actually a magic money tree. I think most economists were thinking about inflation and this whole quantitative easing might, you know, cause hyperinflation.
It might cause some inflation.
Yeah, but
not to mention a pandemic.
The papers were just celebrating and champagnes were all out during COVID.
Lots of go-go girls dancing around.
We're all rich now.
Do you know what? But I think he's doing something that many like pundits do. They will look back at history and then they'll paint it as them like forecasting something, right? So it's very easy for me to say, oh yeah, do you remember in 2020 when I said that something would happen? Well, we know what happened thereafter. So it's very easy to say, oh, do you remember what I said back then? And like to look as though you were some oracle of Delphi and we were able to predict something in like an oracular fashion. I think it's very disingenuous to do that, but maybe he did do that. But let's say he did, okay, whatever. But predicting that there's going to be inflation during a pandemic isn't exactly like the top tier, like didactic methodology, is it?
No, it isn't. And I listened to what he said as well. He has that LBC segment. He has all his, whenever he has talk anyway, he's got the video on his YouTube. That's why he remembered. And well, yeah, he basically said, you know, there might be his worry, there might be inflation, and that is like such a pedestrian thing to say during that time. It's like and he's painting it. You remember when I just, you know how he paints himself. You've seen The Big Short.
Yeah.
That guy, Doctor, what is his name? Like he bet.
I know the guy. Doctor. I can't remember who it is.
Yeah, he had like 700 million, or almost $1 billion.
Yeah. Scion Capital, right? Scion Capital.
Yeah. So he paints himself as that guy that you know he saw it before everyone else, which he just said like, oh, there'll be inflation. Like he didn't see any.
And clocks COVID was coming. I don't think.
What has that got to do with like he just used that to say like, you know, do you remember, you know, how trustworthy I am?
Well, that's what I mean. Like you can. That's what I mean.
He's using this proposal.
Yeah, he's like using history to be like, oh yeah, do you remember when I was right back then? Therefore, don't question me now. That's essentially what it is.
Yeah. Don't you trust me, babe?
Why you gotta check my phone,
Don't
babe?
trust me, babe.
Don't just trust what I'm saying, okay?
You're just gonna hate yourself.
point.
Check my phone.
The pain is in the knowing. The pain is in the questioning. Okay, don't ask the question.
During COVID. This is
During
6
the
months
lockdowns?
into COVID. Yeah, that's when I called you first. Yeah. Because what I recognised, which is the reason that I'm is if you're allowing
called me, did you?
what that means is the rich buy everything.
Mm-hmm.
The rich buy everything from the middle class. The rich buy everything from the government. If you want your kids to afford houses, you cannot allow a future where the rich own everything. You can't give the rich everything and expect your kids to have something.
So this isn't so on the raising revenue point. You say
like the knowledge he's dropping, like he can't give rich everything and expect to have money. It's just damn.
What?
What
is unbelievable?
Like Marx and everyone else. I think they just have to step aside. Gary is in the building.
Right? The thing is, why is he gaining so much traction? I mean, what he's saying, I get it. I get that he's like, yeah, eat the rich, even though I'm one of the rich. Yeah, tax the rich, even though I'm one of the rich. Yeah, tax the banks, even though I like exploited the system and made huge amounts of money from the banks. Distribute wealth, even though I'm probably not distributing wealth. I understand all of the things he's saying, but why is he gaining so much traction? And I think it's because that pedestrian economic commentary is so rare in terms of like people's understanding that anyone can actually make traction. Because when you're the one like teaching the masses what is deemed to be a very complex subject matter, you just seem like, I don't know, almost like godlike. Do you know what I mean? I don't really, as someone who understands like finance and economics to a decent degree, everything he's saying isn't like awe-inspiring. It's not like, oh yeah, oh my God, this guy is the future. I don't really understand the appeal of this guy. I really don't.
Well, I mean, I'm going to defend him for a second and say like, what was that? The trickle-down economy is almost as bad as him saying like, if you give money to the rich, they're just going to get richer. Trickle-down. If you give money to the rich, they might just give you a tiny bit.
Right.
And that's a good thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway,
it would bring in about 25 billion a year.
Yeah.
You're still going on about that?
Not enough.
God, it's like you're obsessed.
That's not a lot.
I know it's not
That's 2% of government spending.
Listen,
so why are you saying 2% on that wealth?
It's not enough.
Yeah,
I know that. So I'm aware of that.
So why?
If you don't get the 2%, this country will collapse. If you get the 2%, the country will collapse slower. Really,
okay, so what should
you need is much more. You need to look at how do we really aggressively tax the richest in the country much more. That is, and I don't say that because I want to do that, Tom. I say that as one of the best economists in the world.
What? What, Gary? You don't say tax the rich because you want to do it. So what are you saying it for then? Academically?
No,
what do you mean?
He's one of the best economists in the world. Did you hear that?
But did you hear what he just said, Ashkan? He said, I don't say it because I want to do it. What do you mean? What are you saying it for though, Gary?
Really,
okay, so what should
you need is much more. You need to look at how do we really aggressively tax the richest in the country much more. That is, and I don't say that because I want to do that, Tom. I say that as one of the best economists in the world because I'm betting on if you don't do that, the economy will collapse. NHS.
Bro, this guy is not your friend. This guy is literally saying, if you don't tax the rich, I don't care. I don't actually want you to do it because either way, I'm betting on it and making money. By proxy, by virtue of that, I'm exacerbating the wealth inequality gap because I'm making disproportionate amounts of money vis-a-vis you, and therefore you're getting poorer. But I don't really want the wealth tax. What?
Yeah. But to be honest, I'll understand that bit saying like, I'm sorted either way. I'm just telling you for you poor folks.
No, but the guys, he went on to say, I don't really want you to do that. What does that mean?
I don't even. No, I think what he meant was, in his defense, was like saying like this is not what he wants to do, but it's like so urgent and so crucial for this for the economy that he has taken this mantle.
He's taken this mantle, this martyrdom.
Yeah, martyrdom to actually be the voice of it. Or he rather just
But doesn't that raise the question?
The best. But I mean,
doesn't that raise the question? If he doesn't really want to do it, how committed is he to the cause? Doesn't that raise the question?
But he doesn't need to be that committed. He just said he's one of the best economists in the world. I don't know who gave him that title. Like, why are you saying that?
I came into this actually liking Gary Stevenson, to be honest with you, and I still like his hero arc story. But the more I listen to him, maybe he has developed and harnessed the ability to distill and titrate complex economic matters into simple language. And it's so simplistic that it's actually bamboozling me. Maybe it's my problem rather than his delivery. I don't know.
Yeah, no, we're just haters at the end of the day.
I'm not a hater of Gary Stevenson, I swear I'm not. I actually like some of what he's saying. I actually agree with a lot of it. I like his delivery. I like the fact that he is from a humble background. I like the fact that he is a boy done good. And I like the fact that maybe he is trying to give back a little bit. Some of the stuff that he says is a bit...
He's rather boy being naughty. He hasn't done any good.
Collapses. Spending, like, education collapses. You cannot... Listen, if you have a wealth of £1 billion, what's your passive income? What's your passive...
What? Like, he asked you 25 billion is not that much. And he's like, you see these cards, pick one card. That's what he's doing.
Passive income, if you have a worth of £1 billion.
Nah, it
Depends where you're getting it from. Depends how much of it
50
you're
million a
using.
year, 5%, 50 million, 1 million a week. Right. If you had 1 million a week passive income, how much would you spend?
God, loads.
Hey, how much?
I don't know.
These
are numbers.
Okay,
Yes, you did.
I'm basically Gary Stevenson.
Yeah. But which makes me think that you went and watched this and you're just lying.
I haven't seen this. I've seen his content, but I have not seen this interview.
No. But the thing is, he might have repeated all of
Maybe.
And also, I don't know what was. If you had actually watched it, you wouldn't have mentioned this. Like, you're not that.
But do you know what?
Do
you know what? I think it's a clever strategy to like throw out a question and bamboozle someone, because as soon as you do that, you like claim the higher ground, and everything you say thereafter seems like hallowed, refined, and very intelligent.
Yeah, because I mean, that's why I just answer his question. You're asking another question that he doesn't know the answer to get the, it's now you explaining things.
So it's absolutely mental. Spends £500,000 a week, right? That means you still have £500,000 a week to do what with? Buy the rest of the assets.
Sure.
You cannot allow these people to accumulate the wealth.
So what do you want it to be? If 2% on wealth above that threshold, and we can get into how that wealth is measured.
Yeah.
If it's not 2%, because that just doesn't bring in enough, what does it need to be?
I think when you're talking about the very, very, very rich, I think you need to look at reducing the ways they avoid taxes. I think you need to look at inheritance taxes on the very, very rich. I think you need to look at... You simply cannot allow... If you have one group of society that increases its share of ownership to 100%, then that means the rest of society reduces its ownership to 0%. I don't know if you're a billionaire, Tom, but I assume you want your future kids to own houses, and so do I.
Yeah.
And you cannot have that if you... Listen...
You're richer than I am, Gary, by multiple
Look
levels.
at human history. Most of human history is a tiny, tiny super wealthy elite, and the vast majority of people desperately impoverished. And that's the most of the current world as well, okay? My grandma grew up in London, in the richest country in the world, and 3 of her siblings died of tuberculosis, disease of poverty.
Where did we get to this, though? I mean, like, every time you ask any question that, like, explain your proposal to us, like, he just goes on a fucking
But
story.
I think that's what people like about Gary Stevenson. I think they see him as a human. I think he intersperses his narrative and his economic commentary with anecdotes from his personal experience, and I think that's what makes him endearing to people. And I think it's a strategy. It's like, let me connect with the common man. Let me talk about things that they don't understand, but also things that they definitely will relate to and resonate with. I think that's part of his spiel.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that Stammer was doing in his...
Yeah, my father was a carpenter or some shit.
Yeah, something like that. My father was Jesus Christ.
My father was Jesus. He was a carpenter.
I want you to listen to the next caller.
He pays tax in lots of different ways. He's earned it.
We'll call it a day.
Well, I mean, he receives...
So he would, if he earns money through work, he would have to pay income tax.
If you inherit £10 billion, then your lifetime working...
To George in Worcester. George?
Hi, thanks. Cheers, Tom. Hi, Gary. I earn £8 an hour as a self-employed. I'm 43 years old. I've got no pension, no holiday pay, no sick pay. But my main concern is immigration. I want to stop immigration altogether. I don't think you're going to achieve anything, Gary.
He said he wants to stop immigration, like any immigration.
Because a lot on your side, they just keep calling us names. People with my concerns, they just call us names. They belittle our concerns as well. So we're at like an impasse. You're our concern. People with yours coming in.
I do worry.
So basically, yeah, he has said like his issue was immigration, and he doesn't want any immigrants. Well,
You know, I'm an economist, right? And I stick to economics. I'm not an expert on immigration.
There you go. You can't see. He doesn't have the guts to pin his colour to the flag. You know what I mean?
One of the best economists in the world haven't got an opinion on immigration, like, as if immigration is a cultural issue. It's not an issue for economists. Like there's nothing to say about the economy of immigration. Like there's just...
You can see that little wry smile as well, right? That came over his face because Gary Stevenson's past is probably very, very multicultural and diverse. And if I know anything about the inner workings of investment banks and finance, they're mostly populated with like Sri Lankans, Indonesians, French, so many immigrants to this country who like provide the marginal taxation for this country way more than like the millions of £8 an hour minimum wage earners. So like you can see the wry smile on his face because he wants to avoid that question. And he grew up in an area that was heavily diverse and went to working in institutions and studied at institutions that were also heavily diverse. And him copping out and not answering that question makes me lose a bit more respect for him. But with Gary, I think he's very adroit, he's very assiduous, he's very smart. So he knows that pinning his political colours to one flag is going to get him less views and probably do less for his book sales. He wants to be apolitical. I get it.
You say £10 million worth of wealth. What
so he's basically about to just give non-answer to the immigration.
do you mean by that? And who measures that?
It's all your assets minus all your debts. So if you've got a house which is worth £500,000 and you've got a mortgage which is £300,000, you don't have any other significant assets, then your wealth is £200,000 and you're not going to be affected by a wealth tax above 10 million.
That's stupid.
The valuation of people's property changes though over time, doesn't it? I guess.
Yeah, of course. And you know, this is one of the problems, one of the difficulties of wealth taxes. And there's ways around that. You know, you can make the valuations less frequent. You can make the taxes less frequent. You can do it every 10 years. You can raise the threshold. There's lots of ways you can do it. But you have to do something. Tom.
I don't think there are many people arguing that you don't have to do something, and I think there are an awful lot of people listening who, as working people, feel like they've sort of had enough now of paying the taxes that they're paying, particularly on small businesses, in particular with the NI increase. Yeah. Having listened to you a lot, spoken to you, plan of how to make that happen, how to do it.
Yeah, I think you're right, Tom. I agree with you, to be honest. You know, I've known that this was going to happen for 14 years, right? I've been betting a job in the city since 2011. I made an awful lot of money doing it. I quit a very well-paid job in the city in 2014. I was living and working in Japan at the time. I came back to London with no idea how to stop this. And I tried a lot of things, Tom. I worked at a think tank. They were a little bit ineffective, if I'm honest. I went back to university. I did a master's at Oxford. I was writing for The Guardian. In order to get this tax in, I need the overwhelming support of the public.
But what tax? I guess that's my question. You're right, but what's the how does it work? How do you stop? All these kinds of, whether it's a big business like Amazon.
YouTuber, okay, I've got an Instagram. Gary's
I've got an Instagram.
Undertaking, and it just feels like it's quite hard at the moment to nail it to the wall about how exactly it works.
Listen, Tom, this is how it works, all right? I'm a YouTuber, okay? I've got an Instagram, Gary's Economics, YouTube, Gary's Economics, phenomenally powerful. I have to make a video every week. I have to come on shows like this.
You don't have to. You don't need the money.
No, I don't do it for the money. I do it to save this country, Tom. My plan is that come the next election, Labour have no choice but to call me into a room and say, support us. And then I say to them, all right, give me the wealth tax. Because this is not Gary Stevenson saves the world, Tom, okay? I'm not able to be the world's biggest media proponent of wealth taxes and also just put the tax together in my spare time. I'm a busy man, Tom. Sure. I'm a busy man. I am using my media power to manage the public opinion so that I can force the government to do what I want, which is what Rupert Murdoch does. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
You're not here to say this is how it can work. You're here to say this is the broad principle of what needs to happen in order to avoid the catastrophe.
Yeah, in my spare time, I go to the think tanks, I go to the economists, I go to the political parties, and I say, help me build this. And they don't listen to me because I'm not big enough on Instagram. I'm not big enough on YouTube. And that's why.
What think tank goes? You go to a think tank and say,
think tank is like, listen. When you get to the think tank, the first question is, How many subs do you have?
Yes. Are you fly? Are you...
That's why we have OnlyFans model with 100 million followers making economic policy. It's just OnlyFans models because they have all the subs.
Did you listen to that? That was brilliant. Like he wants to. He said like Labour has to ask his help. He wants to help his country, but he's a busy man. He can't actually. The one thing that helps his country, he can't actually sit down and do it because he have to make YouTube videos. And people don't subscribe enough to him, and he doesn't have enough followers, and the think tanks don't talk to him because they're like, oh man, if you haven't got 5 million followers, you're nothing to us.
Yeah, I think this guy is actually quite narcissistic, to be honest. And also, just to get back on his unrealistic and completely non-existent taxation plan, he's been asked repeatedly, like, what does it look like? He can't give an answer to it because I guess he doesn't have enough subscribers, right, to be able to come up with that policy. But he said the way the wealth tax should be tentatively designed is that you minus your assets from your liabilities, right? So you got 500k asset, you got a 200k mortgage left on it, your wealth is 300 grand, right?
Yeah.
But the rich know how to structure their investments to make their debt look very high. So if you're going to do it so prosaically and basically like assets minus liabilities, the rich are just going to structure their investments and their assets to make it look like they have 10 years worth of debts that surpass their asset income stream. So that's not going to work, Gary. That's just not going to work.
They have to go to job center.
Right? It's like, in fact, I need a tax rebate. I need money from the government.
Like, and they've done it for many years. Like, they have it's not anything new. Like, Amazon hasn't made a penny for years. Like, I think
that's what I mean.
Last few years, but like for many years they said like we were just making losses.
That's what I mean. And the irony of that, Ashkan, is that you'd go to someone like Gary to structure that type of deal for you. Make me a deal whereby it looks like I am in debt for the next 25 years and that my liabilities outweigh my assets. It's like the structured product. You can literally buy those type of products. You can swap those products with people just like Gary.
Yeah, well, I mean, you and I are part of the problem. It's the last word, I think, because we haven't followed him or subscribed to him. So, and we're just hating. So, shame on us. Anyway,
straight after this video,
yeah.
I'm going to subscribe.
Block him.
I'm going to buy 1 million books, and I'm going to hope by delving into those YouTube videos, I actually see his taxation plan, and maybe I'll learn something along the way.
By the way, I checked his Patreon as well. He has around 2,000 something people who is paying him monthly, and at the minimum, I think he's making 9,000 per month.
Bloody hell!
Because there's like 3.
Bloody hell!
Maximum is like 20k per month.
Isn't it interesting? But he said that he's just trying to save the economy. He's trying to save the country he loves by charging the people who need his help the most.
Let me show you one more thing before you go. Gary Stevenson. Let's go to his.
Welcome to Gary's Economics.
Links. Shop Gary Economics. Support on Patreon.
Wow.
Donate.
Wow.
Subscribe, page Gary. Buy his book on Spotify. Make him.
Wow.
So the first 3 is just.
Wow. I'm gonna end this video because I must run and subscribe. But I'm gonna end it with this. Gary Stevenson. You can take the capitalistic banker out of the city, but you can't take the city out of the capitalistic banker. Subscribe, buy his book.